Good evening. Welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. Joining me tonight is going to be my friend of 30 years. Where has the time gone? Michael Reagan will join us, syndicated columnist. Michael Reagan will join us, and we'll be joined by Leo Holman. Leo and I today had a 40-minute conversation with a man that could be tapped to help clean up the massive chemical spill in Ohio from the train derailment. This is a story that's not getting anywhere near the coverage that it should. And we now have two more train derailments. In May of 2019, I did a whole hour on my radio show on 61 stations nationwide and warned about, how chemical plants in America, highly concentrated in places like Houston, Texas, and how trains loaded down with chemicals could be used for terrorist attacks. I warned specifically in that show, May of 2019, about all the hazardous chemicals that come through your town. And are you ready? What would you do if there was a massive spill? Do you have what's necessary to get out of town without breathing it in? Maybe some people thought that was worrying about something you shouldn't worry about. Well, once again, we were ahead of the curve because we were studying what the terrorists are studying. In fact, we know for a fact, as I detailed in that report in 2019, terrorists have been studying how to use, what's right here in America to carry out a massive chemical attack on Americans. We'll get into that tonight with Leo Holman and tell you about our 40-minute conversation today with this expert who may be called in to help with the cleanup as an expert and a contractor. I'll also talk tonight with Rebecca Walzer. She's the one we bring on to talk regularly about, the economy, central bank digital dollars, and massive inflation that could lead to hyperinflation as more experts are now using the H word. As you know, last year I stopped using the I word, and I started warning you about the H word, hyperinflation. We'll get into that with her tonight as well. But first, my friend of 30 years, Michael Reagan. Michael, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us.
It is great to be with you. And before we get started, I just want to say, I don't know if Mike listens to you every night with the pillows and all that stuff going on, but you sent me a pair of his slippers. I have flat feet, size 12. I have I have osteoarthritis in my metatarsals.
Yeah.
So standing hurts me. Walking kills me. But the reality is I have tried slippers on all of my life. And I literally throw them in the trash. I wear them for like 3 weeks, throw them in the trash. 3 weeks, throw them in the trash, Goodwill, whatever it might be. Only pair of slippers I've ever put on. My feet still pain, but they do. But only pair of slippers I've ever put on that I really enjoy going home and putting them on and walking around the house. No other slippers in my 77 years have done the trick. And I have osteoarthritis in both feet and my metatarsals. So I just thought I'd tell you that. I'm not being paid for this commercial, but I'm just telling you.
Wow, that is very nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And in fact, I think I sent some to the family as well.
You did. I mean, Ashley absolutely loves and adores hers and what have you. Cameron, I haven't spoken to. He's too busy because he just gave birth, or his wife just gave birth to the third grandchild, little Gage Michael Reagan. You know what I nicknamed him?
I know, but tell the audience what you nicknamed Gage.
His name is Gage. I nicknamed him 12.
Now, for some folks, Mike, you went right over. But some folks.
I know, but I can't wait. I can't wait till he starts school and they say, "What's your name?" My name is Gage, but my grandfather calls me 12.
I think that's awesome. I think that's great. Well, since we're doing the personal thing, I wanted to bring this up and show the audience this. This is off my wall. I have a wall that also has the picture of Michael Reagan where he signed his book, Twice Adopted, that I was his literary agent on. But I have this picture, or this letter, framed in the hall downstairs, along with a lot of other things that mean a lot to me. And this one is dated 1995. 1995 from my friend Michael Reagan, sending me a letter thanking me for sitting in and hosting his radio show for him. 1995. That's 28 years ago, Mike.
Oh, thank you very much. There you go.
Where has the time gone, my friend?
You know, we're still here fighting the battle. We're still fighting the battle. But you know what I tell my son, who calls me every day? I thought I was conservative. He's my wacko. and Cameron. I also tell Cameron, if I wasn't his father, I would like him to be my father. He's a great dad, takes care of the two little girls, the 7 and almost 5-year-old, now the baby Gage. What a great dad he is, and what have you. But I say, you know something? I'm going to be 78 in March. It's up to your generation and the children you're all giving birth to who are going to have to fight for freedom in America. Because if you don't fight, we're absolutely going to lose it. As my dad said, we're only one generation away from losing it all. And I've been talking about China for years. As you've been talking about China for years, it's like everybody fell asleep at the wheel until balloons flew over.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And folks, if you guys want to do some great reading, you should go get some of his books. Go to Amazon, type in Michael Reagan. Look at all the books he's been writing since the 80s, but certainly some of them in the 90s. Michael Reagan Making Waves and many, many other books. And the things that he's talking about then, like he said, we're still dealing with now. But here's something we were not dealing with back in the 90s that I know of. And here's his latest column, his latest article. He's a syndicated columnist. Every week he cranks out a new column. I don't think you and I had to deal with this in the 90s. The doping down of women's sports. Tell us about this latest article.
Well, I find out most people today think history of the country started this morning when they got out of bed. They have no concept what happened in the past, so they don't learn anything from it. I remember a young boy, 25-year-old young man I was playing golf with a few years ago. And I was on my way to France to raise the American flag at the American cemetery. And this 25-year-old young man said, why is there an American cemetery in France?
Turn my earpiece down. It's so loud, it's distorting. I can't understand what he's saying too much. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
This 25-year-old young man had no concept why we had an American cemetery in France. Didn't know. And you go, this is the problem with America. We don't teach history. So I thought through this op-ed piece, I would give you a little history lesson.
Okay.
And we're talking now. We've all heard. Many people have heard about Leah Thomas, the swimmer, 6'4" male. Who in fact was approved by the NC2A to swim in the championships against Riley Gaines, who is a female, and what have you. And people don't remember the fact that back in the 1970s and 80s, up until almost 1990s, the East German swim team were given drugs by the country, sometimes with permission, other times without the permission of the family, to make them more male-like. Beef them up. In fact, the joke was back then during the Olympics that you could tell the East German females swimmers because they're the ones with the beards, and it was a joke. And ultimately, what happened was that the Olympic Committee finally figured it out that they were cheating. They were giving testosterone and other hormones to these women, and they were winning every gold medal known to mankind. The East German women were winning, and so they ultimately what they did, they disallowed it. They took all the medals away, and it's interesting. I make the comparison that back then they were trying to turn women into men to win gold medals and silver and bronze medals in swimming. Today, we're trying to turn men into women to do the exact same thing that the Germans were doing, East Germany was doing back in the 1970s and 80s. And now you've got some women finally standing up and saying something. Riley Gaines, of course. Remember. You know the girl Bethany Hamilton, great Christian girl, lost her arm to a shark?
Yes.
Well, she was supposed to be in a championship. Well, she canceled being in the championship because the World Surfing League decided to allow men who want to identify as women, to in fact now surf as women in the World Surfing League competition. And she said, I'm done with this stuff. I'm out of here. So you have it in track and field, you have it in swimming, you have it in surfing, and it keeps going on. And the reality of it is nobody's standing up. No sportscasters. You don't see them standing up and saying anything. You don't see the fathers standing up and saying anything. Nobody is saying anything and saying, wait a minute, this has got to stop. And so they feel emboldened to do more and more. And now it's become a cult. Like, hey, I'm cool because I allowed my child become a male or a female. That is child abuse, and you should be put behind bars.
Absolutely. And you make a great point that so few people will say anything. Of course, any sportscaster that says anything today is probably going to lose their job if they say anything. And any parent that says anything is going to be immediately shamed by the local or state or national media, and certainly on social media. So they've gotten this cultural Marxism that has set the rules for what we can and cannot talk about, right?
Yeah. Absolutely right. And as I said, nobody teaches history that what the East Germans were doing back in the 70s and the 80s. We were appalled by this. But we're not appalled doing it to our children to win. I mean, I talked about a joke I heard, and I put it in the op-ed piece. There was a comedian. He said, hey, you could be ranked number 482nd in tennis in the world that we live in. All you have to do is put on a sports bra and remove your penis, and you can be number one women's tennis player in the world. I mean, that's what they're doing. To win and get a championship, that's what people are willing to do. And sometimes they don't even do the removal.
Wow. It's mind-boggling to think that when we started working together in 1993, that we would be sitting here in 2023. We started working together in 1993. Okay, the first time that I came on your show was, I think, February 1993. I did it from a hotel in Boston, Massachusetts, where I had been speaking that day on my new book. You interviewed me that night. We became friends, started working together regularly. But little did we know 30 years ago this month, that this is the kind of conversation we'd be having in America today. If I don't think I would have believed that we would go down this far. Do you?
No, not at all. I don't believe it at all. I can't believe it's happening. And I've got the two little granddaughters, scares me to death. I mean, and they're both swimmers at 7 and 5 years old. I'm very concerned about these kind of things. Does your family, though, blame me for all the work you do in broadcasting today? I mean, when I first met you, you were on a street corner with a cup and a pillow and a blanket and a tent. And now look at you. I'm just saying.
You should be so proud. You look the monster you created.
Boy, right now they're clapping. Yes.
Well, what I did was I dragged the whole family in. So Logan's in the control room. He oversees about 6 or 7 people. My daughter handles all their customer support. When they call to order freeze-dried food and everything, they're dealing with her. My wife handles a lot of the other administrative stuff behind the scenes. So I just dragged the whole family and turned them all into workaholics.
But you make a point that, and I've said this to other people. I said, if I weren't successful as I am, I couldn't help my son and my daughter-in-law and the 3 kids. I couldn't help Ashley, a teacher, now going to be a principal next year, but help them when they need help. And you find more parents today are reaching out and helping their children because the opportunities are not there.
Yeah.
That were there maybe for us back in the day, and what have you. And that's what's really sad. Like somebody said to me today, boy, I remember when, things were great. I remember when you could go play in the front yard of your house. I remember when all those things, and you can't do it anymore. It's sad. I remember when it was safe to walk down the street. It's not safe any longer to walk down the street. You turn on the news at night, and all you hear is the latest: who got killed today, who got run over, who got knifed, who got shot, and that doesn't mean anything because they're going to be out of jail before you turn off the news.
That's so true. I used to look at people who hired all their kids to work with them, and I thought, oh, that's nepotism. I don't know what those people do and how hard their families work within their organizations. I know in mine, they work super hard, and I love it because they have my back like no one else would. So why would I not have them working for me?
I remember the night my dad won the governorship back in 1965, 66. And I got off work. I was working on a dock in L.A. loading oil well freight from 5 at night to 1:30 in the morning, getting paid $2.10 an hour. And I said, can I get some time off to go congratulate my dad? And I had ordered a suit, gotten a suit, that corduroy suit, because you can make, those are cheap. And got a corduroy suit, went over to the hotel, saw my dad, and I shook his hand. And I said, congratulations, what's the chance of getting a job? I mean, that's exactly what I said. I want to get off this trucking dock.
What did he say? What did he say?
My dad looked at me and said, Michael, I appreciate it, but I just don't believe in nepotism. And I thought to myself when I went home that night, I voted for the wrong guy.
Why is that?
Well, because you look at the Brown family. Yeah, Jerry, the son of Edmund G. Pat Brown, who my dad just beat, the Kennedys, the Browns. I voted for the wrong guy. I mean, the left thinks of those nepotism things. I mean, look at Joe Biden.
That's true. Look at Joe Biden.
I mean, seriously, look at the Clintons.
Yeah,
That. I got the Reagans who said, just go out and get a job.
Yeah. Well, I love the story how you your mother, you wanted money for a bike, and she didn't just give it to you, did she?
I didn't want money. I wanted to just give me the damn bike. You know, all the other kids were getting bikes. I was 10 years old. I had gone down and actually picked it out. It was a blue Schwinn 10-speed bike. It was the newest thing on the planet, and I knew I wanted it. And my mom said, "How badly do you want it?" "Oh, Mom, I'll love you forever, I promise." And my mom said, "Oh, great." She said, "Do you want enough to go get a job?" I said, "Whoa, stop. I'm 10. What can I do with the bike?" "You can deliver papers." I said, "I never thought of that." She said, "Well, I did." And she made up a contract, and she made me sign a contract owing her the money that she was going to loan me now to buy the bike. And I said to her, I said, "Why are you making me borrow the money and sign a contract when all my friends, their parents bought them the bikes?" She said, "Because I build men, I don't build little boys."
Wow, I love that line.
And so I ended up actually selling Sunday papers in front of our church, Good Shepherd Church in Beverly Hills. On Sunday morning, I would sell, back then a big, thick Sunday paper cost like 25 cents. And I would sell, papers on Sunday morning, and then I would split the profits with my mother, and I ultimately paid my mom back. But she didn't stop. She did that when I was 10. She did it when I was doing my radio show and driving to San Diego and back every day. No money coming in. And I called her that one day and said, "I need some help. I got 2 kids at home in Colleen. Can you help me out?" She said, "Absolutely." I said, "Great. What can you do?" She said, "I can tell you this. Shut up and keep driving." She hung up on me.
Keep driving from L.A. to San Diego doing
LA,
the show.
yeah. 262 miles round trip. We started on the air. I mean, we had no money. I mean, I had fake callers. I mean, everything going on. I mean, I had a phone booth outside the building, and the producer would go out and dial the show number on the phone, and he'd be Bob from St. Louis. Long time listener, first time caller. And I talked to Bob from St. Louis for a segment. And he hung up, "Bye, Bob. Thank you very much." His wife would go out and use the same phone and call. "This is Mary from Atlanta." "Hi, Mary. How are you?" "Long time listener, first time caller." That's how I started my national show. I mean, actually, I had no live audience. I didn't have a live audience for a few months. And finally, KVI up in Seattle picked me up. But again, that's how I started the show.
Wow.
And I was driving to and from, no money coming in. And Mom said, "So who died and said you didn't have to pay your dues?"
Wow.
Because I called her back, and that's exactly what she said to me, and she hung up again. And that show lasted, 19 years? I think it lasted 19 years, like 1991, 2009. 19 years it lasted before I walked away from it and did all the other stuff that I do today. But again, that was just tough mother going, "Shut up and keep driving."
Wow.
But I don't know if you ever knew how I started that national show that you were guest hosting on.
No, how did you?
That was it.
That was it right there?
Money.
Yeah.
And that was it. We had a couple of people wanted to get it going. We got ABC said, we'll let you borrow the satellite. So they put us up on the satellite, which was really kind because we had no money to pay them. And they were just a believer. Thank God they were a believer. And we did that. And we did with the fake callers. I mean, we must have had the fake callers for 2-3 months. And I finally had other friends who would call in from their homes. "Hi, this is John. Love your show." And he'd be John from Seattle, and Mary Lou from New Mexico, and Sarah Jane from California. Everybody thought, "My God, this show is big. It's big." And it was like a guy calling from a payphone 25 feet away from me.
Well, and of course, that look that she used to give you is the look Americans are familiar with if they watched her on Falcon Crest, and that was a real look, wasn't it?
Oh gosh, that was a real look. That was a real look. Yeah, when my sister told me when I was 4 years old that I was adopted, and I had no idea what she was talking about. Well, I told her she'd get a blue dress for Christmas, and she said, well, you told me a secret. I'll tell you one. You were adopted. And we all looked at each other and said, let's go down and ask Mom about that. And said, hey, Mom, what's adopted mean? She got that look. Go upstairs and go back to bed. You were chosen. Okay? Get out of here.
That's excellent. And it's in your book, Twice Adopted. It's in your book, Twice Adopted, which is still available.
Yeah.
Now, before
Twice Adopted is out there, people can find it. Yeah.
But before you go, you write a weekly column, and they'll find it. Where will they find the weekly column? And people want to know, what are you doing today?
Well, go to @ReaganWorld, which is my Twitter account. I write actually about 3 columns a week. I write 2 for Newsmax, and then one there for general out there in the public, if you will, through Kagel. Now, it's interesting you like this with Kagel because of rules we've done in California, and Biden wants to do it nationally. I'm only allowed to write 37 columns a year without being hired full-time by Kagel.
Oh, wow.
And given retirement and everything else. That was the bill they passed California, that Biden wants to do it nationwide. And so I'm stuck. And so I'm at that point, I couldn't have the company go, we want to hire you. So I actually write those columns for free.
Oh, wow.
And put them out there because, when you're doing a syndicated column, they want like 50 a year, not 37. But that's how they wrote the law in California. And the woman who wrote it, as soon as it became law, quit as a assembly person in California and went to job running a union in San Diego. That's what that was all about. And Biden wants to do the same thing on a national level that she did on the California level, if you will. So I write 3 columns a week, and I do shows like yours. Mark Larson's a friend of mine. I do stuff with Newsmax. Every Monday I'm on with Newsmax at 1:30 Pacific time, 4:30, on the other side. I do a lot of work with the Young Americans Foundation, who bought my dad's ranch. I go speak to young kids. They bring 200 high school students, 200 college students in there all the time to the Ranch Center in Santa Barbara. I go speak to them. They want to learn about Ronald Reagan. It's a great program. They have teachers come in, and they do great speakers come in and speak to these kids. And I think it only runs them like $100 for a weekend, and they're from all over the country. And interesting, Brannon, is the fact that when I spoke there a couple months ago, I'm speaking there on March 15th at the Ranch Center, and the kids end up going to the ranch for a day also. Out of the 200 high school students were there that I was speaking to, because they introduced themselves, where they're from, where they go to school, I would say a third of them were homeschooled now. More and more kids are being homeschooled because of what's going on in our school system.
Indeed, they are. Wow.
And if people want to find out about Young Americans Foundation, go to YAF.org. If you got a high school or a college student and you want to find out how you get involved with Young Americans Foundation, that's a great place to go because they have these great programs at Young Americans Foundation, great speakers. I know one, me. And you can learn about my dad. You can go up to the ranch. Young Americans Foundation bought it in 1998. It is exactly the way it was the last time my dad was there because of Alzheimer's. He never knew he wasn't going back. So they kept it absolutely pristine the last day Dad was there. Soaps in the soap dish, firewood's in the fireplace. All of those things are there. And they've done a great job with it. And we're up there. We're still using Boot Hill. We just buried our shepherd up there a couple of weeks ago. So we have Boot Hill up there with all of our animals.
And his clothes are still there? His tennis shoes are still there, I heard?
Oh, yeah. Boots, tennis shoes, everything's there. Everything's there. It's really great to see. And when you walk into their bedroom, and Dad, talk about Dad. You walk into the place and you say, my God, he was humble. But you walk in the bedroom, and Nancy was very comfortable in the bed they were in, but it was twin beds. And he pushed them together, and he tied them together. You know, if you're out in the garden, you're using those ties to tie things together.
Yeah.
Well, that's what ties the beds together. But the bed's too short for somebody who's 6'2". Nancy's 5'2", he's 6'2". But he knows Nancy's comfortable. So you know what he did? He put a little table at the end of the bed, and on that table he's got a pillow, and he's got a sheet and a blanket, and that's where his feet are when he sleeps at night. So his feet are on the table, and now would you do that for your wife?
I'm not.
Well,
so
you
sure.
wouldn't have to because she'd have to lengthen the bed. Yeah, she's right now. She's lengthening her side of the bed so her feet could go somewhere. But that's how and humble he was. That there's a table at the end of his bed, and with a pillow. And it's made like a little bed, right at the end of where his feet would go, and that's where he slept because Nancy was comfortable in the bed.
Wow. One more story before I let you go. We got to get you on more often to tell these stories. I heard a story from Ed Meese one day when I was at a C&P meeting, the only one I ever went to in right outside of D.C. at Tyson's Corner. And I was sitting there having breakfast. The morning session was about to begin. And this gentleman walks up and he says, "Is this seat taken?" And I looked up and it was Ed Meese. And I said, "No, sir." And I stood up. Then he sat down and we introduced ourselves. We visited over over breakfast. And then we turned our chairs around and listened to the morning speaker. And we were talking. He told me the story of how when your father, the attempted assassination on his life, he was in the hospital and he had spilt some water. Do you know this story?
Go ahead. No, tell me.
And Ed Meese says he walked in and the president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, was down wiping up water off the floor. And
but that would be him.
He asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I spilled some water." He said something to the effect, there are people that will do that. He said, "I know, but I don't want the nurse getting in trouble with someone thinking that, anything." Oh, yeah. So he was down cleaning it up.
That is so Ronald Reagan. Like I've told you the story when I walked in at 10 o'clock the morning after he shot with my family. And he looks at me and says, yesterday, I said, "Good morning, Dad." "Good morning, Michael." He says, "Yesterday I was shot." I said, "Dad, the world knows you were shot yesterday. This is not like a news flash." And he says, "Well, if you're ever going to get shot, don't be wearing a new suit." And I said, "Okay, why are you telling me this?" "Well, yesterday when I got shot, I was wearing a brand new blue suit. I just picked it up the day before. It's the first time I'd ever worn it. And, when I got shot and they took me to the hospital, and I got out of the car and I tried to walk in the hospital and kind of fell. They put me on a gurney. And the last time I saw that suit, it was sitting in the corner of my hospital room in shreds. They actually cut that suit off of me. So that's why I tell you, if you're going to get shot, don't be wearing a new suit. I said, "Well, thank you for that info. I'll tell Colleen if that's ever going to happen, not to be wearing a brand new suit." He said, "That young man who shot me." I said, "Hinckley." He said, "Yes, John Hinckley." I said, "Yes, that's who it was, John Hinckley." He said, "I understand his parents live in Denver." I said, "Yes, they live in Denver." He said, "I understand they're in the oil business." "Yeah, they're in the oil business." "Do you think they have any money?" I said, "Dad, they're in the oil business. They live in Denver. Of course they've got money. Do you think they'd ever buy me a new suit?" No, this is 6 hours after he's off the table where he almost died, right? He's looking at me. But this is the way it was. He always tried to make you feel comfortable in his presence. And so who tells somebody the morning after they almost died from a bullet wound, "By the way, do you think they'd ever buy me a new suit?" And they never did, because they never knew the story, because they never asked.
Right.
Yeah, but
well, we need to get you back more often. I appreciate your coming on tonight. Where can our audience, again, plug into you? And you also have spoken an awful lot. I don't know if you still do it, but you've spoken an awful lot for pregnancy, pro-life centers, pregnancy crisis centers. Do you still do that? If so, how could people find you to book you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, go to just at Reagan World. They can reach me there. They can go to Mike@Reagan.com to email me. If they want to, Mike@Reagan.com, and email me there and what have you. But I was invited to speak at one in a couple of weeks, but I'm not going to be in town to do that, so I can't here in LA and what have you. But a lot of people don't know. I was adopted. So was my mother. So was Nancy. So was my niece. I mean, we're like a piecemeal family.
Wow.
And like what I tell people, if none of us had been adopted, if we had been aborted, who would Ronald Reagan married? And where would the legacy be of his family and what have you? So I give a blessing to Irene Flower from Ohio. She passed away years ago. But every January, I thank Irene for, giving birth to me instead of having me aborted. And, I have a great friend in Barry Lang, who's my birth brother. Barry, who I met in 1987. We're great friends. We're great college football fans. And back when he was 20 years old, he just turned 70 in December. When he was 20, 21 years old. He was one of the head writers on Laverne and Shirley. And that's when all the drugs are coming into Hollywood. And he said, I had a choice, put it up my nose or leave. He left, walked away from Hollywood. He introduced Babalu Mandel to a lot of people back then, to Billy Crystal. That's how those two got together. So, and they still talk to him, still calls him on occasion. But he's a terrific Ohio State fan, because if you live in Ohio, there is nothing else to do in Ohio except get away from the chemical spill, which is now in your water.
That's exactly right. That's what we're going to talk about next. Mike at MikeReagan.com. He also has a syndicated column. Check out his books.
Mike at Reagan.com, not Mike at MikeReagan.com.
Mike at Reagan.com. Sorry about that. Mike at Reagan.com, and check out his books on Amazon as well, and his syndicated column. As always, Mike, great to have you on with us. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Best to the family.
You too, my friend.
Tell your wife, lengthen that bed.
I will. Michael Reagan checking in, folks. Appreciate it. Mike Reagan, can you believe it? 30 years ago this month is when he and I became friends. And again, I don't know where the time has gone. We've got to get him back. He has so many stories he can tell, behind-the-scenes stories that are just, they're historic, but they're also fun. He's got a lot of them.